I had a good 20-minute break, and this is where we left in the last video. So we had done with the entire feature component. So let me expand this one, and this is what we have coded so far. Now we're going to start working on the offer view. So cut this one, paste here, and now we have to get into this particular component offer view. So come back here, go to this view, and simply find out the particular folder. So this is the one, click here, and now we're going to start working on this. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to start the application. So we'll type npm run dev, and this will start the application on localhost 3000. And now we can simply cut this and let's import the FC model that's coming from the React. Now we're going to simply do one thing. We're going to simply do the changes. So we're going to remove this and we'll say export. And that's what we have. And change this to offer view and we'll say FC because this is the structure we have been following so far. So it looks pretty fine. Now come back to the browser and let's start the application. Click on this localhost 3000 and so far everything is good. You can see the entire application is working fine. This is what we have. Now we're going to simply split the screen and see what exactly we are working on. So far things are looking good. Now we can start working on our JSX. So come back here. First thing we're going to remove and take a section. It's going to have an ID. We can call it, let's say, features. Let's have a class called padding white 20 pixels. There it is. Now we'll take a div. It will have a class called container. Inside that we're going to take another div. It will have a class called margin bottom 10 pixels, flex item and justify between. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called max auto, max width 2xl, text center. Inside that we'll take a h2. It will have a class called margin bottom 4 pixels, text 3xl, font medium, and we'll have a capitalize. We'll say text white. Inside that we can display our titles. We'll say Solana token popularity. You can call whatever you want. There it is. Now we're done with that. Now we can display a short description. So let's take a p tag. It will have a class called text default 200, text small, font medium, and inside that we can take a dummy text. So I'm going to take this one. Let's remove this. Okay, let's make it into 2 lines. So cut this one and that looks fine. So we have our paragraph. Now leave to div and come back here. We'll take a div. It will have a class called grid. Gap is going to be 6. It will have on the last screen, we'll say grid column is going to be 3. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called space y 6 pixels. Inside that we'll take a, let's say we'll take a div. It will have a class and call it background default 950 by 40. We'll have an over effect. So we'll say minus translate y is going to be 2 pixels. So it will go up. Now we'll have our border primary. We'll have a border small 2 pixels, and we'll have a rounded XL backdrop blur. It will be, let's say, blur 3xl. We'll have a transition duration is going to be 500. So inside that we're going to take a div. It will have a class padding 10. Inside that we'll take our h3 tag and we're going to assign a couple of properties. So let's add a class called, so the class we can include is margin bottom 4 pixels, margin top 8 pixels, text 2xl. We'll have a font medium. We'll have a text white. Inside that we can display the titles. We'll say best token builder. There it is. And we can display an icon if you want, but I'll leave it as an open option. So we'll have a text primary. Height is going to be 10. Width is going to be 10. And if you want to include the icon, you can definitely add, but I'll keep it that for a time being. Now come back here. We'll take a paragraph and let's add a short description. So we'll say text default 100 and margin bottom is going to 4 pixels, text small, font medium. Inside that we're going to take our dummy text. So let's remove few lines and that looks good. That's what we have. Now we can come back here. We'll take an anchor. We'll have the, we don't need to redirect anywhere. If you want to redirect, you can add. Let's add the classes. So we'll say text primary, group, relative, inline, flex, item, center, gap is going to be 2 pixels, And inside that we can display the span. It will have a class background primary 80, will have an absolute border minus bottom 0, height will have a px, width is going to be 7 by 12, and we'll have a rounded transition, we'll have a duration close to 500, and we'll have a group over, we'll say with full, and inside that we can display our text called read more. There it is. There we have the span. Now we can display our icon. So it will have a class called height 4, we'll have a width 4, and that's what we want. So far this looks good. Now come back here, and all we have to do is to simply replicate this couple of times. So this is the entire component we have. So simply copy this section and replicate. Like we have one more, close this one. So this is the first section, comment this, and now we have to simply second, and this one is going to be third. Now all we have to do is to simply copy this, paste, and copy this, paste. So we have two section. So if I make on the full screen here, you can see it looks pretty beautiful. This is the title, and we have getting this nice over effect. Looks pretty fine. If you check the responsiveness on the smaller screen, that's also look good. It's fully responsive. Now we are done with this. So this looks pretty good. Now close this. So come back here in the index homepage, close this one, and now we have to work on the FAQ view. So cut this and paste here, and let's start working on the FAQ. So come back here and let's get into this particular folder, and that's what we have to do. We have to do exactly the same thing. So here I have already provided you the dummy data which you can simply render, which we're going to render together. So what I'm going to do is we can do one thing. We have to import few things. So let's bring this down. Let's import the few things from the React. So we need this FC that's coming from React. Then we have to do export const. We'll have this FAQ view, FC model. We have to receive the prop if we have, and we have to simply return the entire component. Now we're going to simply cut and paste here. So all of this dummy data is given to all of you guys. So we have to simply render this data. So we'll have to return and work on the JSX. So we'll take a div. So come back here. Let's make it side by side so we can see what exactly we are working on. So we can take a section. It will have an ID. Let's call this one FAQ. We'll have a class called padding y 20 pixels. Now if I come back here in the application, you can see we have this nice space. Now let's do one thing. Let's split the screen, drag it here, and now we can start working on it. So inside that we'll take a text that's displaying fine. Now remove this, take a div. It will have a class called container. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called margin bottom 10 pixels, flex, item, and justify between. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called max auto, max w 2xl. We'll have a text center. Inside that we can take a h2. It will have a classes. So we'll have a class called margin bottom 4 pixels, text 3xl, font medium, capitalize, text white. Inside that we can say any question, and here we have to display our paragraph. So we'll have a class called text default. It will be 200. We'll have a text small, font medium, and we'll take our dummy text. So let's remove few lines from here. That's it. So we got our title, we got our descriptions. Now we can start working on the body component. So we can come back here. We already have the dummy data. So let's take a div. It will have a class called max auto, max width 3. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called hs accordion group space y 4 pixels. Inside that we'll take our dummy data. So this is the question we have. So let's change this to questions, and we have to simply render this. So we'll say question map, question index. We have to make it instant return. So let's take a div. It will have a key called index. It will have a class called, let's say, dynamic classes. We'll take the hs accordion background default 950 by 40, overflow hidden, rounded, large, border white by 10. There is it, you can see the white lines. Then we can take this backdrop, so there is no space, backdrop. So remove this, we'll say backdrop blur, we'll have 3XL. Now we can take the ID, it will be a dynamic ID, and this ID is coming from our dummy data. So we'll have a question dot not question ID, that's the main. Inside the div we have to take a button, it will have a class called HS accordion toggle, we'll have a inline flex item center, justify between, gap is going to be x3, padding x is going to be 6 pixels, padding y is going to be, let's say, 4 pixels, and there is we have the space. Now text will have a left capitalize, text white, and we'll have a transition all. Inside that we can transition all, and we have to attach the aerial control, and in that we have to simply provide the ID. So it's going to be a dynamic one, so we'll say FAQ accordion, and we have the unique index, so we'll say index +1. So every single component will have 1 2 3, so in that way when the user will click, it's going to open that specific component. So that's what we have. Now we can take this button and we'll have a h5, in that we can say flex text base font semi bold. Inside that we can display our icon, it will have the class called me 3 pixels, height 4 pixels, width 5 pixels, and we'll have a stroke white, align middle, we have some good space. And now we can simply come back here, and here we have to simply render the questions. There it is, looks good. Now we can come back here, we'll take an icon, it will have a class called HS accordion active minus rotate 180 pixels, and we'll have a height 4 and width 4, and we'll have our transition, and we'll set the duration to be 500. So we can come back down here out of the button. Now we can take a div for the body component, so we'll take the ID, and it's going to be a dynamic one, so we'll say FA accordion, and we'll say dynamics index +1. So that's how we have to match with the button and the body. Then we can take our classes, we'll say HS accordion content width is going to be full, overflow hidden, transition, instead of all we can go with a specific value, so we'll say height, and we'll set the duration to be something like 300. That's what we have here. Now we can come here, we'll take the aerial label by, and that we have to simply assign the ID, and inside this div we have to take a div, it will have a class called padding x 6 pixels, padding bottom 4 pixels, padding top 0. Inside that we'll take a p, it will have a class called text default 300, margin bottom is going to 2 pixels, text small, font medium. Inside that we can display our answer, so we'll say question dot answer and save it. There it is, we got the component. Now we can simply go with the hardcore data, so I'll come back here, let's take a class, you can display the dynamic data as well, there is no problem. We'll say text default 300, text small, font medium. Inside that we can say, have you ever wanted to become blockchain developer? Check the pro NFT marketplace course. So if you haven't checked that, make sure to check, that will teach you a lot of things, it will teach you everything which you have to know to become a blockchain developer. So that's what we have, looks pretty good. The components are ready, we have all of this dynamic data. If you open that, you will find that we have this question, answer, ID, you can add more, but this looks fine. Now if I make on the big screen, everything looks pretty fine. So every component is opening. If you reload the page and if you click on the button, It's going to close it up and it's going to open that specific component. Beautiful. So this looks good. And with that, we are done with the entire front end component. And now we have to work on our dynamic section. So if you click on this wallet, you have multiple options. You can go with the phantom and it will click and it will connect. So things are looking pretty fine. So we are done with the entire landing page. And now we have to work on the actual function of our application. So come back here, cut this one and come back here. And now we have to work on our create token component, which is going to be a dynamic component. So here we are. Now simply cut this, paste here. Now we have to get into the open, like create view component, come back, go to the view, and here we have the very first third one. So click on this, get into this index file, and now we have to work on our component. So first we have to import the FC model. So let's bring it back and let's work on the all the imports and the functionality. Then we're going to start working on our front end component. Then we have to import, so like we have to import the use connection, which is coming from wallet adapter React, and then we have to also import the use wallet. Then we can import our key pair, and that's coming from web3.js. Then we have to import the public key. Then we have to import the system program. We have to import the transaction. So these all functions coming from web3.js. If you want to know more in details, you can definitely check the documentation, but I would suggest you to simply follow the project and understand that how I'm utilizing this feature from the web3 package for making the connection and creating token. Now we can import here. We have to import the mint size, and that's coming from SPL token. So mint size, and we have to also import token program ID, balance from rent exempt mint. Then we have to get the get associated token address. Then we have to take this create mint to instruction. Then we have this create associated token account instruction. So all of this coming from SPL token. Now we can come back here. We have to simply import program ID, and that's coming from Metaflex Foundation MPL token metadata. That's what we have here. We have to receive few more. Create meta data account v3 instruction. Then we have to import create meta data account instruction. So these two functions we are using. Now we can come back here. Let's import XCS because we have to make a call to our Pinata server where we can deploy the token, the image. Then we have to import, so import couple of things from React as well. So let's import this use callback, use state. Now we can come back here. Let's import the notification. So we have to get into the directory. So /util/notification. That's what we have. Now we can come back here. Let's import our clipboard, which is nothing but a spinner. When there is a call for the function, we have to display that. Then we have to import our use network configuration, which is coming from the network configuration provider. Now we have to do a couple of internal imports. So we'll say UI part import. In that we need two things. First, we need the icon, and that's coming from the React icons. So let's remove this one. And what is the name of the icon? Let's call it React icons AI, and we have to get this AI outline close. That's the icon we have. Now we have to import the internal component. So we have to import few things. We need to import the create svg icon, and that's coming from our icon folder svg. So if I take you into the svg, and this is the one which we need. We got the icon. Now we have to get the two more imports. So we have to say import branding, that's coming from our component branding, and we need the input component as well. So we'll say input view, and that's coming from our view section. So we'll say slash index, which we haven't worked, so that's why I'm just commenting both of this component. So we got all of this. Now we have to work on the JSX, but before we start working on the JSX, let's convert this function to export, and let's change this name to create view, and this will be FC. In that, we're going to simply receive the props, and here you can see we have this copy, and that's what we can receive. So before we start working on the JSS, let's start building the functionality, because that's the main thing. So we can take a couple of things. So we have to take a couple of variable, and we can call this use connection. In that, we have to receive the connection. Once we have the connection, then we have to import the key, the public key, and that's coming from our wallet. So we'll say use wallet. So change this to small public key, and this will be called send transaction, which we are getting from the wallet as well. Send transactions, change this to small. We got this too. Now we can come back here. Let's take a variable, and this time we're going to simply call our network configuration. In that, we have to receive few things. So we already built the logic, so we'll receive the network configuration. This will give the information that which network we are connected. Now we can come back here. Let's take a state variable. So we'll take a snippet. We'll say token, and token URI by default will be empty. Then we have to take the another one. We'll call it token mint address. It will be an empty string. Then we have to take this loading state. By default it will be false. So these are the state variable we have taken. Now we have to take the token data. So we'll say token, and it's going to be type of object. So in that, we're going to take all the information about the token. So let's take that. So first is going to be the name. Then we're going to take the symbol. Then we're going to take the description. After that, we have to take the amount, means the total supply. And at the end, we're going to take the image, and we'll have the description. So we have taken the decimal, and this is the description. So these are the data we are taking for our token. Once we have the data, now we have to build the function which allow us to simply call it. So we'll call it handle form field change, and this particular function will update our object, the token object. And that we're going to receive the file name and event, and in that we have to simply call our set token. We have to simply deconstruct our token, and then we have to simply provide this file name e.target.value. And that way, what will happen, all we have to do is to simply call this function in the input field, and it's going to update that relevant object in our state. So we can come back here. We have to take a function. So let's create the function for creating the token. So this is what we're going to work. It's going to have a couple of internal function, because this function is quite huge. So we're going to divide in couple of internal function, one for uploading the metadata, one for uploading the image, and the actual token creation. So let's come back here. Let's create the token. Create token. In that, we're going to use this use callback. It will be an async. In that, we're going to receive the token, the entire data of the token, and then we're going to simply build the logic. So we'll take a variable called lem ports, and this data is coming from the package we have installed, get minimum balance for rent exempt input. In that, we have to simply pass the connection, so it can identify that which network we have connected and what is the balance. Then we can take another variable called mint key pair, and we already have the function called key pair. In that, we have to simply call the function, the method we want to call it. So we'll call it generate. We'll have the key pair, that's the unique key pair we'll get. Now we can come back here, and we'll take the token ATA. We'll say await, and we have to call the function get associated token address, and that's how we can make the relation, the one who's creating the account and the one token will be associated. So we'll say mint key pair to public key, and we'll have the public key. So here we are making that, and this particular public key is coming from our use wallet, because that's when we will connect with the wallet, it will have the information about our public key, and that's how we are getting that. Once we have these three variables, now we can work on the actual functionality. So this is what we have. Now we can come back here. We'll take this try and catch block, and we have to simply console log out if anything goes wrong. Now we can come back here. We'll take a variable call, we can call it set meta data URI, and this particular variable will contain all the information which we'll upload to the IPFS. So let's call the function called await upload meta data. It's going to be an internal function, so all we have to do is to pass this token object data, and it's going to simply upload and it's going to return the URL. So what we're going to do is, before we start completing this particular function, let's build this internal function. So come back here, and we're going to build two internal functions. So let's come here, and this is what we have: upload metadata. Come back here, let's take a function called image upload, and we'll say IPFS. So we'll take a variable called handle image changed, in that we have to receive the file. So we'll say async, and that we're going to take this event and we'll convert into a variables. We'll say file, we'll say event dot target files, and we have to take the very first one, and here we have to simply make a check. So we'll say if file exists, then we have to make a call to our, then we have to simply call the function which will upload the image to the IPFS, and it will return the URL. So we'll say await, we'll say upload image pinata. So this is another internal function we're going to create it. In that we have to simply pass the file, and it's going to give us the URL back, and that's the URL we have to set in our state variable. So we have to deconstruct the token, we have to simply give the name image, and that's what we have to update. So this is the function which will update our state variable and update the image of our token. So we are done with this. Hope you guys have understood, and this is the function we have to build. Come back here. So we'll take a variable. This is the function for uploading image to the pinata. It's going to be an async. In that we have to receive the file. It will be, we'll say if file exists, then we have to take a try and catch, and we have to simply console log out the error if anything goes wrong. That's the setup we have. Now here we have to simply do the check. So we have to convert the image into a form data. So we'll say form data, we'll say new form data, and here we can say form data append, and we have to give the name. So we'll say file, and what I want to upload this file. So this is the setup I have to do. And so now the image file is there in the form data. All we have to do is to simply make the request to the IPFS endpoint. So let's call this response. We'll say await XCS. It's going to be an object because we have to add multiple methods. So it's going to be a post request. Then we have to add the URL. And this is the endpoint for uploading the image to the IPFS. So https://api.pinata cloud and call pinning, and this is the method we have to call pin file to IPFS, because this will only upload the image. We have multiple options to upload to the IPFS. We can upload the folder, we can upload the JSON data, but this particular endpoint for the file, the image. So this is the endpoint. Now we have to define and configure our header. So before we configure our header, we have to define the data. So we already have the data in the form data. Then we have to set the header. In that we have to simply provide our API key and the secret key. So we'll say pinata-api-key. So I'll show you how you can get your own key. Just follow along with me and let's build the functionality. Do the same thing for the secret key. We'll say pinata secret API key, and that's what we have to provide here. So this is the setup we have done. All we have to do is to create a key from pinata, and we have to provide here, which we'll do together. Just follow along with me. So once we have this, and here we have to define that what type of data we want to simply upload. So we'll say content type. In that we can say multi-part form data. So this is what we have. So when we'll hit this request, it's going to return either success and failure, but it will return success. So what I will do is I can simply come here, and we have to construct the URL. So we'll say image hash, And this is the endpoint for image. Like all we have to do is to simply attach the hash. So let's construct the URL. Let's take a template tutorial. We'll say https://getway.pinata cloud, and we'll say IPFS slash, and here we have to simply provide the hash of the image, which we have here in the response data, and we have called IPS hash, and that will have the hash of the data we have uploaded. So this is the endpoint which you have to construct. So once we have this, at the end finally we have to return the image hash, means the URL. So this is the entire function we have for uploading the image to the Pinata, and once it will successfully upload, is going to simply update in our token object. So we are done with this, the image upload. Now we can come back here and we have to build this particular function, upload metadata. So come back here, it's going to be quite similar. All we have to do is to simply change the endpoint. So let's come here, we'll take a upload metadata is going to be async. We'll take the data token, it will have this loading state true. Then we're going to take the data from the token. So we'll take this name, symbol, description, image. Once we have all of this, we'll take this if name is not there, symbol is not there, description is not there, and the image is not there. Then what we have to do is we have to simply return the, we can simply console log out the entire error. I can say data missing. Then we can come back here, we'll take a variable. If there is a data available, then we have to simply convert the data into a JSON stringify. So we'll say JSON stringify, and we have to pass down all the data. So name, symbol, then we have the description, then we're going to have the image. So we have successfully stringified the data. Now we have to simply upload this data. So let's construct the response. So we already have this, I already have this. So what I'm going to do is let's take this try and catch. Let's console log out the entire error object if anything goes wrong. So this is what I have. Now I can simply come here and I'm going to get this particular one, this response object. So get this one, this portion, copy, and that's what I have to paste here. And all I have to do is to do the changes. The method is going to be the post, and here I have to change the endpoint. Instead of this file, we have to call this JSON to IPFS. Okay, let me type one more time, pin JSON to IPFS. Make sure to do this change, and here we have to pass this particular data, and this will be fine. And here I have to do the change in the content type. So this will be application slash JSON, and this is fine. Here we have to call URL, and that's what we have to simply return from this function. So this is fine. So let's call this return URL. So this will return the URL of the JSON data we have uploaded to the IPFS. And let's convert this into a meaningful error object. So we already have the notification, and that we can simply pass the type is going to be an error, and we have to simply send the error message. So which is have here uploaded to Pinata JSON failed. That's what we have here, and after that we have to simply close our loader. So this is our upload metadata function we have. So far things are looking good. Now we have to simply get our key. So this is fine. Now we can simply copy this one and let's place here, because we already have the notification. Here I can make the changes. I'll say data is missing. Close this one. Looks fine. Now let me see this one. Here we have to do the same thing. Let's display the error. So I'll say notification, and type is going to be error, and in the message I have to simply construct the error. So upload image failed, and we have to simply turn the loader off. Looks fine. Am I missing anything? No, this looks fine. This is the perfect endpoint we have, and this is the handle image change function. Don't need to do anything. This looks good. So we have done with all of these three functions. Now we have to work on this particular function, create token. So this is what we left. Now we have this metadata, so we are getting all of this information. After that we are also getting the metadata URL. So now we have to work ahead. So we'll take a variable. Let's console log out the entire metadata so we can see in our terminal. Now we can come back here, we'll take a variable and we'll call it create metadata instruction. Here we have to simply call the create metadata account v3 instruction. In that we have to simply provide all this information as an object. So first is going to be the metadata, and we'll say public key. In that we have to simply call this find program address scan. In that we have to provide the data in the form of array, so we have to provide this buffer from. In that we have to simply pass the metadata. This is the general setup we have to do. It's just set it up. Once we have that, then we have to pass the program ID, and we already have this buffer. We have to provide this, and then we have this mint key pair. In that we'll pass the public key and we'll say buffer. So that's the thing we have to provide in the find program scan. Now we can come back here, we'll take the program ID, and looks good. So far things are pretty good. Now we're done with this. Now we can come back here. Let's take the first index, and here we'll take this mint. We'll say mint key pair to public key. Then we'll take this authority is going to be the same, I'm the one. Then we'll say upload authority to call this public key, and here we have to say pair is going to be the public key. So because I am the owner and I'm creating this token, so I have to assign all the authority to my account. Once we have this one, then we can come back here. We can simply take the second object, and here we have to construct that. So we'll take this create metadata account agree v3. In that we have to simply provide all the things. So first thing is going to be the data, is going to be the name. We have the token dot name. Then we have the symbol, token dot symbol. Then we have the URI, and we already have the metadata URI. That's the URI we have to provide. And here we have to provide the creator. By default I will go with null. Then I will have this seller fee base point is going to be a 0, and we'll say uses is going to be a null, and we'll say collection is going to be null, and here we have to say is mutable to false. Then we have the collection details null. Once we have that, looks good. So this is the first object which we have passed with all the information in our create metadata account v3 instruction. Then we can come back here, we'll take a variable called create token transaction. In that we have to simply pass this new transaction. We have to call this add method, and we have to simply provide the data. So we'll provide with this system program, we'll call it create. In that we have to provide the information to from public key to be the public key. In that we'll say new account public key to the mint key pair dot public key. Then we'll take this space, we'll say mint size, lemport is going to be the lemport. Then we have to provide the program ID to be the token program ID, and we are getting from there. Now we can come back here, we'll take this create initial mint instruction. Inside that we'll take this mint key pair to public key. We'll take this number, and we have to pass that the token decimal point. It's important that you have to wrap this in a number, otherwise it will throw an error, because when the data will come, it will come in the form of string, and we have to convert that into a number. And here we have to provide the public key. We have to provide a public key. Then we have to provide the token program ID, which we have got from above. And once we have all of this, now what I can see, come back here, let's call this particular function called associated token account instruction. And in that we have to pass the public token ATT, and we have a public ATT. We'll have a mint key pair, we'll say public. Now once we have that, we can come here. Let's call the second method called create mint to instruction. In that we can say mint key pair to public key pair. Then we'll say token ADT. Then we have to say public, and here we have to simply provide the amount of the token. So we have to convert into a number. We'll say token amount. We have to multiply with this mapped dot pow, and in that we can pass the 10, and we have to pass the decimal point of the token. So this is the setup we have to do in our create mint, and it's going to mint the token. Now once we're done with that, now we can come back here. Next method called create meta data instruction, and that's once we're done with that, we can simply call the signature, and we'll say await send transaction. In that we have to pass this create new token transaction and the connection. In that we have to simply pass the signer, and in the signer we have to provide this mint key pair. That's the setup we have. So we can come back here. Let's set the data, because once the transaction will successful, it's going to return some information. So it will return the address of the token. So let's call this set token and mint address, and we have to simply update to our mint key pair, because there we'll have all the data as a form of object, and that's what we have to access. So we'll say public key to stringify. So this will give the address of the token. Now we have to simply display the notification to the user that you have successfully created the token. So we'll say success. Then we have to say message is going to be token creation successfully, and we have to add the transaction ID. So like transaction ID is going to be the signature, because that's the ID it will have. So this is the notification. Let's do the same thing from error object as well. So let's say any, and we have to paste here notification. Type is going to be, let's say, error, and here we have the message, and this message will say token creation failed, try later. And after that we're going to set this loading state to false. So this is the entire function we have for creating, and here we want to make this function call whenever there is a change in few things. So we have to call this, let's say, public key. We'll have the connection, we'll have the send transaction. So looks very fine. So this is the entire function we have for creating. I hope you guys have understood. We are just following all the methods. We are getting some relevant information about the user and its wallet, and that's what we are providing to the user. So first we are getting all of these packages, then we are getting the key pairs from the Web3, then we have the token information which is coming from the Solana packages itself, then we have the metadata, then here we have some internal, and here we have the component which we're going to work, state variables. This is the token object, and this is the handle form field and the create token function, getting the metadata, then calling all the method one by one. So this method's very important. Looks good. So close this one. This is the handle image change, so this will upload. All we have to do is to call this function, and it will upload the image to the IPFS. They have this upload image pinata. This is the endpoint, and now we have to get this particular key, which I will tell you how we can get that. That's fine. We have to do the same thing here as well. Looks good. Now what we can do is, let's get this particular key. So come back to the pinata. So come back here, reload the page. Right now we don't have any issue. Open a new tab and type pinata IPFS. It's take you here. Click on the very first link, and make sure to come to this website. Here you will find all the details about the pinata, that what are the things you can able to do with this. It's a really powerful application. You can build any kind of application on pinata. So make sure to create your account. I already have my account, so I'm going to simply log in, and you can see all the file I have already deployed to pinata. That's all it's reflecting here. So first thing you have to do is, once you create an account, you will have a similar interface. Click on this API. Here I have created all the API which you will reflect here. So that looks good. Here I have set the limit that how many like files I want to upload in a specific API. So simply close this one. Now click on this new API to create a new one, and here you have to give your name. So I'll call this, let's say, Solana token, and here you have this method. So I will go with the admin, because I want to I have the access in all of this file type. So you can see it has a bunch of options which you can use to deploy the files. You can hash the metadata, pin by hash, pin file to IPFS, pin job, tons of methods. So you can simply turn and off and on. But I want to have all of this access on this particular API secret key. So here I can set the limit that how many files I want to allow in a specific API key. The maximum you can do 1000. The maximum you can do 1000, not more than that. So I'll go with the 1000, and you can call generate API key, and it will generate the API key. So this is the API key you need. This is the API key. Simply copy, come back here, and here you have to simply provide that. Paste here, save it, do the same thing here in the metadata, paste here, save it. Now we have to simply copy this one, come back in the code, and here you have to simply paste here. So let's format this one. Let's save it, let's bring it back, and simply copy this one, and we have to provide here as well. And that's the only thing you have to do. That's the only thing you have to do. So you have successfully created. Now you can simply open, copy, or you can simply done and close this one. So we are done with this API key, and I hope you guys have your own API key. Now we can start working on the other features. So like in the J6 part, all the functionality is done. All we have to do is to simply connect this to our files. So we have to work on this two component as well. So we can come back here. Now what we're gonna do is, let's split the screen so we can see what exactly working on in the front end. And I can see here, let's come back to the index page. Let's drag it here, and let's come back to the home page, the pages, and let's give this, so it will display our component. So you can see it's displaying. Now we can see what exactly we are designing. So let's remove this one. Let's take this fragment because we're going to have multiple section. So first we have to build the loading state, because when the user will make the transaction, we have to display the loader. So let's work on the very first component. So we'll say is loading true, then we have to simply render this section. We'll take a div, it will have a class, let's call it absolute. Then we'll have the top is going to be 0, left is going to be 0. We'll have a z index 550, then we'll have flex, height full screen, and width is going to be full, item center, justify center, and we'll have a background color to be black by some opacity, so like 0.3, and we'll have a, let's call this backdrop blur, and we'll have this to 3. Let's call this 10 pixels, not go with 3, that's going to be a quite dark. So looks good. Inside that we have to display our component, this spinning component. We'll say clip loader, and this is coming from our React. So if I bring it, you can see it's there. I hope you guys can see things are looking fine. Looks fine. Now we can come back here and let's work on the main component. So we'll take a dynamic block and we'll say token mint address is not there. Then we have to render this particular section. So that's a simple check. So we'll go with the empty, and this is the else statement we have. So if I bring it back, you can see this will be not there. So let's take this and we can take the section. It will have a class. Let's call this flex, width full, item center, padding y 6 pixels, padding x is 0. On the last screen we'll say h full. On the last screen we'll say padding 10 pixels, and let's bring it back so we can see. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called container. In that we'll take this high. You can see that's reflecting because there is no address for the token. Now we're going to simply remove that one, and we'll take a div. It will have a class called bg default, and we'll say 950 by 40. It will have a max auto, max width 5 pixel, overflow is going to be hidden, rounded 2 pixels, backdrop blur 2 pixel. Inside the div we'll take a div. It will have a class called grid, gap is going to be 10. We'll have a large is going to be grid column 2, and grid column 2 Inside the div, we'll come here, we'll take another div, and it will have a class called ps4 hidden padding y 4 pixels, padding top 10 pixels. On the last screen we say like block. Inside the div, we'll take a div, it will have a class called upload. We'll have this relative, width full, overflow hidden, rounded, excel. Inside the div, we'll have this dynamic data. So we'll check this. If we have the token image, then we have to display the token image, the image which user have deployed. So we'll take this image tag, and that we have to simply provide the image resource. So we'll say token.image. We'll say token, and let's add the class called with 2, and we'll have by 5. Else we have to display the upload section. So we'll take this, and let's remove this one, and let's take this label. It will have file, it will have a class called custom file upload. This will have a div. Inside that, it will have an icon. Then we can display our create CSV icon. Right now it's not displaying because this is only visible on the big screen. So let's work ahead, and here we have to take a div. It will have a class called text. Inside that, we'll take a span. We'll say click to upload image, and if I show you, if I turn this off, this is going to display. So let's bring it back, and let me show you on the big screen. So far things are looking good, like this is fine. This is the click to upload component we are working. So let's work on the input field. After that we can check. So we'll say type is going to be a file, and it will have an ID called file. Let's remove this one, and here we have to attach the functionality called on change. We'll say handle image change. That's the function we have to call. So this is the upload component and the image component. So if I make on the big screen, you can see it's displaying fine. So right now there is no image, that's why it's broken, but it's working fine. So we can come back, let's remove this one, and if I open this, you can see the document, the upload component is working also fine. So this looks fine. User can click and they can upload the image. There it is. Now we can come back here, and we have to work on the second component. So we can come here, we'll take a text area, and we have to remove few things from here. So we don't need this. We have to make it to 6. I don't want my text area to be huge. And here we have to call this on change, and we already built the functionality which will update our state object. So we'll take this handle form field change, and we have to update our description. So make sure to give the exact name. So this is the name we have given, and that's what we have to provide here. And we have to provide the event as well. So this will update the data into our object. Let's split the screen, and let's see what exactly we are working on. So let's make on the big screen, and there it is. Now we can simply attach the classes. So this class is going to be quite similar to the input one as well. So let's quickly attach. We'll have a border, default 200, relative, margin top is going to be 48 pixels, block, width full, and we'll have a rounded border, white by 10, and we'll have a background is going to be transparent, and we'll have a padding y is going to be 1.5, padding x is going to be 3, and text white by 80, and this will be called focus border white by 25. We'll say focus ring transparent. So there it is. You can see. Let's do one thing. Let's assign a placeholder as well. So we can call it description of your token. There it is. So this is the text area we have. So far things are making sense to all of you guys. Now we can come back here, and we'll work on the next component. We'll take a div. It will have a class called, on the last screen we'll say ps0 flex. We'll say flex column, padding 10. It will have a div. It will have a class called padding bottom is going to be 6. Margin y is going to be auto. Inside that we'll take a h4. It will have a class called margin bottom for text 2xl font bold text white. Inside that we'll take our title Solana token creator. There it is. Now we can come back here. We'll take a p. It will have a class called text default 300. Margin bottom is going to be 8. Max width small. It will have a dummy text, so remove few lines from here. I don't want to have a dummy text. Let's take this text. Kindly provide all the details about your token. So this is the message which we want to give. Now we can simply come back here. We'll take a div. It will have a class called text start. Inside the div we'll take our input. So this is the component we have to build now. So simply copy, and that's what we have to call here. In that we have to send couple of props. So we have to call the name. That's what we have to send. Then we have to send the placeholder, and we have to send the function which will update the data. So let's add this function called click handle, and in that we have to simply pass the function. So we'll call this e handle form field change, and we'll say name and event. So this is throwing an error because we don't have this component ready, but we are trying to call it. So let's come back here and let's work on the component. So here we are into the input, click here, and that's what we have to work on. So let's build on this. Let's change this to input view. This will be FC. Let's receive that and remove this. We have to say export. That's what we have here. Now we have to receive the props. So far things are looking good. Make on the big screen, reload the page, and you can see right now we don't have any issue. So okay, we have something weird here, so we have to fix this, but we'll do that soon. Okay, there is some problem in the alignment. We have to see what's exactly went wrong. So let's make a side by side and let's work on the exactly in our input field. So let's work on this. So first we have to receive the props. So it's going to be a placeholder. Copy this one. Then we have to receive the name, and we have to receive the function. So let's receive that. Now we can start working straight away to our index input component. So we'll take the let's call this to div. It will have a class, and we'll say margin bottom is going to be 4 pixels. Inside that we'll take a label, and we'll say input label. In that label we have to add a classes called text base, normal, text default 200. Margin bottom is going to be 2 pixels, block, font semi bold, and inside this label we have to add the name. There it is, the name is displaying. Now we have to simply display the input field. We'll say text id is going to be input label on change. We have to simply call the function, and we'll have a placeholder to this. Now let's add the classes. So we'll say this border default 200, block width full, rounded border white 10 pixels. We'll have a background transparent, padding y minus 1.5, padding x 3, text white 80, and we'll have a on focus. We have to change the border white by 25, and we'll have a focus called ring transparent. There is it, it's taking a full width. So this looks good. Close this one. Now all we have to do is to simply replicate this input component couple of times, because we're going to take few data. So our input component is ready. Now simply copy this one, and that's what we have to simply paste here, and 4 times. All we have to do is to change the prop. So this will be the symbol, this will be the symbol, and copy paste here. This will be description in capital, but there's decimal in capital, but here we have to provide in a small, because that's what we have given in our token object. And change this to amount. Let's change this to small and make it this one capital. So this is the input field is ready. Now we have done with the input field. Now we can come back here and we can take a div and we can work on our button. So we'll take this margin bottom is going to be 6 pixels, text center. We'll have a button. it will have an on-click function. And on the on-click function, we have to simply call the function we have called create token, and we can pass the token object. And let's assign the classes called bg primary 600 slash 90. On over effect, we have to change the background called background primary 600. Then we'll have a group. Margin top is going to be 5. Inline flex full item center, and we'll have a justify center rounded large, padding x, padding p 6, and padding y 2 pixels, text white. We'll have a backdrop blur 2xl, and we'll have a transition all, duration is going to be 500. That's what we have. We'll have a type is going to be submit, and we can simply bring it down, and we can say take a span. We'll have a class called fa bolt fw bolt, and we'll say create token. There it is. There is the button. We got the button. Now we can come back here. Let's leave like 3 div, and here we can take the icon. So we'll take this div. It will take a div. It will have a div. Inside the div, it will have a class called text center, and here we'll take this ul. It will have a class called flex wrap item center, justify center, gap is going to be 2. Inside that, we can have a list, and we can have our button. So we'll take this anchor. It will have an on click function, and we have to simply close the component when the user wants to close it. So we have to call this create model to false, and we'll have a class called group inline flex inline flex height 10. Then we can do width 10, item center, justify center, and we'll have a round large, background white by 20, backdrop is going to be something like blur 2xl, transition all, duration 500. On over effect, we have to say background blue 600 by 6, and there it is. And all we have to do is to display the icon. So we'll take the class call text 2xl, text white, group over, we'll say text white, and inside that we can display our icon. There it is. There is icon. User can click and they can close the component. So looks fine. We are done with this section. If I make on the big screen, you can see that this is what we have, but this is not what we want. We want to have in this 2 part, but somehow our grid is throwing some sort of error. That's why we are having this weird issue. So let me find it out that what exactly went wrong. And here I can see the problem. So here we have to say this -2, and this will fix the issue. Right now it's perfectly aligned. If you reload the page, you can simply close and you can open. So now what I will do, come back here and remove this one, save it. It's not there. Now the user can click on this create token, and they can open and they can close. Looks fine, and they can provide all the details and they can create their token. Now come back to the VS and let's bring it back. This is what we have here. Now what I'm going to do is let's get into the component, and we have to simply close it one, and we have to simply replicate it. So we need copy this one, and that's what we have to provide, but we have to do a little bit changes. So this is what we have, the section, and this is, we're going to keep it. And let's come back here. So this is what we have, simply close, and we have to delete this portion, and let's bring it back. And right now we have this empty. Now we can work on this particular section. Inside the div, we can, let's make it side by side. So let's do the inspect element. So far things are good. So inside the div, we have to display our branding component. So this is the component. So let's bring it back, copy and paste here. So it's going to be a reusable component. So let's send the props. So in that, we're going to send the, let's say, image. So I'll go with this image, but you can add your own image. So we'll say /image. We'll have the title. So I can call it to build your Solana token creator. And you can also add a description. So I'll add the, let's call it message, or you can call it description, both is fine. So here I can call this, let's say, try and create your first ever Solana project. And if you want to master blockchain development, then check the course. This is the branding and this is the props we are setting, and you can see there is the component which is displaying. So let's work on this component. So this is the first section and we're going to have the second section. So let's work on the second section. We'll work later in the component, in the banner component. So let's come back here. We'll take a div. It will have a class called, on the last screen we have to say ps0, then we'll say flex, height is going to be full, flex column, padding 10 pixels. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called padding bottom 10 pixels. Inside that we'll take an anchor, and let's remove this. We can call this class to be flex. Inside this we'll take the image and we have to provide the source. So we'll go into the assets and we have to get our logo. So I don't want to use this logo. I want to use the branding which I want, which is one. There it is, Solana. Let's do one thing. We have the image. Let's add the class. So we'll take this class. Let's call this height 10. This is fine. We have the image. Now we can come back here. Let's take a div. It will have a class called margin y auto, padding bottom 6, text center. Inside the div we'll take a h4. It will have a class called margin bottom 4 pixels, text to excel. We'll have a font bold, text white. Inside this we'll take link your new token. There it is. When the user will upload the token successfully, this is the component we're going to display, and we're going to provide all the information so user can verify on the explorer. Let's come back here. Let's take a p tag. Let's call this text default 300, max auto, margin bottom is going to be 5, max width small. Inside that we'll take your Solana token is successfully created. That's the message we have. Check now explorer. There it is. You can display any message you want. So we have done with the title heading. Let's take a div. We'll have a class. Let's call flex, item center, justify center. Inside the div we'll take an image and we have to display the token, the deployed token image. If we don't have that image, we have to display our logo, means our logo. So we'll go into the assets, image, logo 1.png. So there it is, the icon is displaying. Now we can add the classes. So we'll take h40, create big. Now we can come here, we'll take a div. It will have a class called margin top is going to be 5, width is going to be full, text center. Inside the div we'll take the p. It will have a class called text default 300, text basis, font medium, and we'll have a leading 6. Inside that we can display our input field which is already ready. Let's send the props. So we have to send this to, let's call this token address, because when the token is successful deploy, we have to display the token. It will have the placeholder. So in the placeholder we can display the token itself, the address of the token. So let's call this placeholder. And sometimes this auto is not working, and in that I can simply pass the token address, the minted token, and that's what we have here. So, and we can just take this span. It will have a cursor pointer. We can call this to have a on click. We'll say navigator dot clipboard, write text, and with that have to simply pass the token address so user can click and they can copy, and we can say copy. And we can also display the explorer URL, and it's going to be a dynamic one. So when the user will click, it will take them to the explorer. So it will have a class called margin bottom is going to be 6. Then we'll have a text center. Inside that we'll take this anchor. Let's add the URL. We'll say https:/explorer.solana.com, and Solana, we'll say address, and here we have to provide the address of the token, means the token address, so the user can click and they can go there. We'll say cluster, in the cluster we have to pass the network configuration, so in that way it will identify that which network we are connected, and it will automatically take to that particular explorer. And we have to add this target, so we can open in a new tab. We'll say blank, and we'll have a no referral because we don't want to create a do follow link, so we'll say no referral. And here we can add the classes, so we can say bg is going to be primary dash 600 slash 90, then we'll have an over effect, we'll say background primary, we'll say 600, we'll say group is going to be margin top is going to be 5, inline flex width full, we'll say item center, justify center, rounded large, padding x is going to be 6, padding y is going to be 2, text white, backdrop blur, 2xl, transition all, and we can set the duration to be something like 500. There it is. Then we have the, now we can simply display the text. We'll take a span, it will have a class called fw bold. Inside that we can take this view on Solana, there is the button. So this is our dynamic component. So now we have to work on the banner component, so this is the one we have to work. So come back here and go into the components. Inside the component we have the banner, and that's what we have to work on. So let's receive the FC. We have to, this looks good. Now we can work on the props. So let's receive the prop, image, title, and the message. We can work on the JSX straight away. So remove this one. We'll have a class called ps4 hide. We'll say I just want to hide this on a mobile device, I don't want to display this. And on the large screen I would say this block means we want to display. We'll take a div, it will have a class called relative, height full, width full, overflow hidden, rounded, XL. Inside the div we'll take a image, in that I have to pass the image. So we'll get into the assets slash images slash AI, and in that I have the image. So we'll say image, and we'll say JPG. There it is. The image is displaying fine, and I can analyze the classes. So we'll say height full, width full, on I'll say minus scale is going to be x100, transition transform, there it is, transform. Now we can come back here, let's take a div, it will have a class called bg default 950 by 40, we'll say absolute, insert 0. We'll take a div, it will have a class called flex, height full, item end, justify center. Inside the div we'll take a div, it will have a class called text start, padding 6. Inside that we'll take a h5, and we'll take a class margin bottom 3 pixels, text XL, font bold, text white. Inside that we can display our text called Solana token, there it is, and we have the heading. We'll add this break, and we can display the title which we are getting from the user as a prop. Now we can come back here, we'll take this text default 400, we'll say text base, font medium, and here we can display the message and save it. There it is. That looks fine, and that's the only thing we have to add in our component. So if I make on the big screen, this is how it's going to look. So let's expand this. So this is what I want, and I know what are the changes we have to do. Here we have to add the grid. So let's take a div, it will have a class called grid, we'll have a gap is going to be 10 pixels. On the last screen we'll say grid column 2, simply cut this one, and we have to simply wrap this one. So close this one and wrap here. So it will divide in 2 sections, and save it, and there it is. Reload the page, it looks absolutely fine. So let's come back here, let's give this, bring it back, and here we have reload the page. This is what we have. Let's come down here and remove this one, save it, reload the page, no more issue we have. Now we can simply click and we can open this create token. So let's do that. Let's do the inspect element. Let's go into the source code. Let's bring it here and get into the informations, and let's try to create a token to test this out. Reload the page, and if I go to the blockchain coder, come back to this course, and this is the course which I have launched. I want you to come and have a look. This will teach you every single thing. So we need dummy text, so this is what I'm going to take it. Come back here, click on this create token. Let's upload the image from there, and let's select this dude and just wait. And finally the image is successfully uploaded to the IPFS. I can simply pass the description. I can give the name. So the token, I would like to call it testing. This will be the test. Let's add a 9 decimal, and I want to have the supply close to 5 million, and click on this create. And I can see here I'm getting this error. Okay, min key pair dot public is not defined. So somehow our public key is not getting into our component in the function. So let's check here. So this is what I have. The issue is here. And finally I found a problem. That what is that? So here I have to call this use wallet function. So I'm not calling, that's why I'm not getting that public key, and that will fix the issue. That's the only thing you have to do. Now reload the page, click on this, upload the image. This time I will go with this one, and I have to get the text from here, paste here. Let's call this name. So I'll say testing. Let's call the symbol to capital test or small test. We'll add 9 decimal, and we can add the supply to be 5,000 and click on this create token. Here you can see our loader is working fine. Here we got the URL for the IPFS. So let me give my password and click on unlock, and here I'm getting this particular transaction failed because I'm connected to a different network. But if I simply copy and paste here, you can see here I will find all the details, the metadata of the token which I have deployed to the IPFS. So it's working absolutely fine. So the only thing we have to do is we have to switch back to the network, because right now I don't have any fund on my mainnet. That's why transaction is failing. So here I have to change the network to dev network, because in that I have a couple of fund, and I believe that you have some fund in your devnet. If you don't have, just keep continuing, because I will build that particular functionality where you're going to call an airdrop, and it will give you the test sol which you can use to create the token. If you don't have, then don't need to worry about it. Just follow the project and keep this testing and token creation for later time. If you don't have a free show, or you can find a multiple provider you will find on internet where you can paste your address and they will give you some test like dev sol which you can use to create the token. But that all I will cover in the later section of this project, where we're going to build a system where you can simply claim the test sol and you can do all the transactions. So let's click on the network and select. So I'm connected with the dev network, and now I will now have no issue. I can simply create token, inspect, upload the image. I'll go with this women, copy this one, paste the text. Let's give the name. I'll say testing. Let's call this test. 9 decimal, amount is going to be 5. Click on this create, and here it's going to call the function, and here you can see this much fund we are paying. This is the token we are creating, and this is the network fee. Click on the confirm, and it will confirm the transaction. So our token is successfully created. You can see how quickly it went, and here we have all the information. You can click and it will take you to the explorer on Solana DevNet, and here you will find all the information about the token we have created just now. The supply, the authority, the minter authority, the name, the symbol, that's all is reflecting here. You can simply copy and you can come back to the Sol Explorer, and that's what you can simply verify here. So you switch back to the DevNet and paste here, hit enter. Okay, so it's saying no token information. Okay, I understand why it's showing that, because I'm connected with the testnet, but you can see you can able to find all the information here as well. You can see all this information which we have deployed to the IPFS, the authority, the minter, that's all information is reflecting here, which you can find. So we have successfully created our token. If we come back to the Solana token creator, and here you can see change the network, and here you will have all the information about the token, which you can find the symbol and the metadata that's also reflecting here. So all you have to do is come back here, close all of this, and you can simply copy the address, or you can check this particular token is automatically added to your Phantom wallet. So if you come back here and you can see I'm already connected. Here is this test 5000 token we have created. So it's working absolutely fine. This looks absolutely good that we have successfully done with the entire token creation functionality and its dynamic component. So this is looks pretty good. I hope you guys have follow and you guys can appreciate that how things are coming together and how we have built this particular feature. So this looks good. This is the dynamic component. Simply copy this one, and here we have to attach this as well, the closing button. So simply copy, and here we have this, and let's paste here. So this is our closing button. So here we have the button as well, so user can click and they can close this component, and there it is. Hope you guys are getting what we have done so far. So we can simply open the different component. Now we can come back to our code editor. We are done with this, and now we have to work on this particular component. Cut and paste here, and this is what we're going to work next. Now we're going to start working on our next component, token metadata. So this is what we have. Let's do one thing. Let's give this so we can see what exactly we are working on. Come back here, get in the view section. Inside the view we have the component called token metadata, and this is what we have to work now. So come back here. First thing, we have to receive the FC model that's coming from React, and we have to do the changes in the component structure. So this is what I have. First thing, I'm going to receive few things like use state, use callback. Then we have to import the use connection, and that's coming from wallet adapter React. Then we have to import the public key. Then we have to import the metadata, and that's coming from here. Now we have to import the program ID. Then we have to import the React icons. So we'll say AI outline, close, all of things we are getting. Now we have to come back here and we have to import the clip loader that's coming from React Spinner. Then we have to import the notification so we can display either success and failure. Let's go to the right directory. Then we can come here. Let's do the internal import. So let's bring this down and let's call it internal, and let's comment this portion. So in the internal import we have to import few things. So we have to import the input view, and that's coming from the same directory, and we have to receive the branding as well, and that's coming also from the same directory in the component. Now we have to change this to token metadata. It's going to be FC, and in that we're going to receive the prop. So let's copy paste here and remove this one, and we have to receive the prop. So this is what we need. Set open token metadata, copy, and that's what we have to receive here. Now we have to work on the feature, and we have to define a couple of state variable including the tokens ID and all the information. So let's work on that first before we start working on the JSX. So we're going to take the variable for the connection, and this is coming from use connection. So in that we'll have the connection. Once we have the connection, then we have to take the token address which user will provide. Then we have to take the another use state variable, and we'll call token metadata, and this will contain all the information of the token which we'll receive. Then we'll take another state variable. This will call logo null. Then we'll take another one. This will call loaded. By default will be false. So these are the state variable we have. Now let's take the another one. Is will call is loading, will be false. So we have this state variable. Now we can come back here and let's work on the functionality called write function. So let's call this one get metadata. It's gonna be use callback, and that we have to say async. All we have to do is to provide the form, means the data, and in that we're going to take this loading state to be true. So we have to display the loader. Once we loader is active, then we'll take a try and catch, and we have to catch an error if anything goes wrong. And we can come here, we'll call const token mint. We'll call this new public key, and that we have to pass the form, means the data. Once we have that, now we have to build another variable called metadata, and it's going to return. So we already have this public key, and that we have to call this find program address scan, and it's going to give all the information. So it's going to be an array. We'll say buffer.from, and in that we can pass the metadata. So this is a general architecture we have to follow. to get the information about the token. Then we have to get this program ID. In that we can say, let's say buffer. Then we have to pass the token minted. It's going to be a buffer. Once we have all of these setups, because these are the setups we have to do, whether you create or whether you have to receive. Now we're going to go with the program ID. Once we have that, we'll go with the very first. Now we can come here, we'll take a metadata account, and we have to simply format the data. So we'll take this connection called dot account information, and in that we have to simply pass this metadata PDA, and it will give that which account has created. So we can come back here, then we'll say this array, we'll say metadata, and we'll go with a slash, and we'll say await metadata, and on that we have to, on that we're going to call this function, and that we have to simply pass this metadata account, and we'll call it data. So this will contain all the information. Now once we have all of this information, we have to simply extract and we have to store it. So we'll say fetch, we'll say metadata dot data, call URI. Remember the URI we have uploaded. So once we have that URI, we have to simply store it as a variable. So this will call logo JSON. We'll say await, let's call it logo res, and we'll call it JSON. This is the URL. Then we have to simply get the image, and that's also coming from the same place, JSON image, because it will have all the information. So we are simply deconstructing that. So let's set this logo image to our state variable so we can display in the front end. So we'll take this set token metadata, and that we have to pass the entire token. We'll say token metadata. It will have all the information. We have to deconstruct that, and in that we're going to simply get this metadata dot data, and that will simply update all the information right up here in our state variable as a form of object. Simple. Now we can come back here, and we have to simply set the logo to be image. So let's change this one. Let's call this image. So here we have this. Let's call it image, and that's what we have to pass. Then we have to change the states. So is loading to be false. Same thing for the loaded to be true, because the data is loaded. So we can display our different component. Now we can take this one, set token address to be null, because we have to simply remove after it's called, and then we have to simply display the notification. So we'll type is going to be the success. Once it will fetch the information, then we'll display the message. We'll say successful fetch token metadata, and here we have. So that's what we have. Now simply copy this one, and that's what we have to provide here in the error. So copy this portion, paste here. This will be error, and we can call this to token metadata failed, and after that we have to stop the loading state to be false, and that looks fine. And I want to call this function in few condition. So let's call it here. So I want to call the function when there is a change in the token address. Now I hope you guys have understood that what exactly we are doing. We are passing the address and getting all the information and setting up in our state variable. Now we can come back here. Let's build the close component, because we're going to have a button which will close our pop-up model. So let's define as a component, because this is the component we're going to use in multiple places, in multiple component. So let's create this one, closing component. So I can come here and let's call this component. We can take a variable called close model. In that we're going to simply build the structure. So we'll take a href, and on that we have to simply call the function. So we'll say set open token metadata to be false, and let's assign the classes. So we'll say group margin top 4 pixels, inline flex, we'll have height 10, width 10, item center justify center, we'll have a rounded large, background white /20, we'll have a backdrop blur 2xl, we'll have this transition all, and duration is going to be something like 500, and on over effect we have to change the background color to be background blue 600 by 60. These are the classes we have applied, and we can simply display the icon. So we'll take this class called, let's say text 2xl text white. We have a group over, and we'll say text is going to be white, and in that we have to display our icon. Got it? This is our internal reusable component. We're going to use it for closing and opening. So far things are good, and now we can start working on our component. So if I come back here in the create, and here we have the structure. So this is the exact structure we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply close this one and copy, and that's what I'm going to simply call in this token metadata. And we have to do the modification because the structure is going to be the same. So come back here. This is what we have, the loading state, and here we have the token mint address. So let me see, this is the section. Let's close this one, remove this one. So remove this portion. This is what I have, remove this. Now here we have the branding. This looks fine. The only modification we have to do in the right hand side. So this is good, no need to do any changes here. We are defining the first section. This is the second section we have. Now we can come here, let's make it dynamic. So we'll say if loading is to true, then we have to display this, because by default it will be no, by default the loading is true. So if it's false, then we have to display this. So simply cut this one and paste here. Else we have to go with the same. All we have to do is to do the modification. So we're going to have the image. There is no changes we need to do in the logo. This is fine, and here we're going to have the information and the image. So if there is an image for the token, that's what we have here. You can just change this. So right now I'm going to remove this one. We're going to have our logo, and we'll have the call logout, the different icon. Here we have the input. Let's change this placeholder to address, and let's add a function. So we'll say click handle, and we have to simply update the token address which user will provide. We'll say set token address to e.target.value. So in that way we'll update the address to our state variable. Here we have the this particular one. So actually we don't need this span, so simply remove this one, cut and bring it here. If you want to display some of the text in the paragraph, you can do that, but I'll go in an empty instead because I want to have a space. So looks good. Here we have the UL, and this is the div. This is the one. So what I don't want this. Simply remove this one. So this is the input field we have. Now we can simply come here. We'll take a div. It will have a class called margin bottom is going to be 6. Text is going to be center. Inside that we'll have a button. It's going to have a on click function, and on the on click function we have to simply call the function we have built. So we'll pass the token address, and let's add the classes. So we'll have the classes called bg primary 600/90 over effect background primary 600. We'll have a group. Margin top is going to be 5. Inline flex with full item center, and we'll have a justify content center. We'll have a rounded large, padding x 6 pixels, padding y 2 pixels, and text is going to be a white. Backdrop is going to have blur 2xl, and transition or duration is going to be 500. So this is the normal structure we are following. Inside that we can simply call a span. It will have a class called view bold get token metadata. So this is the first section. By default user will see this. Now we have to do the changes in the dynamic one. Once we have the data, then we have to do the changes. So this is fine, we don't need to do any changes here. Or this is the link, this is fine, and this we can remove. And here we can display the image, the token image which will fetch from the blockchain. So I'm going to simply display the actual logo which we have stored as a state variable, and this will find. In that we're going to simply do one thing. Simply we have this paragraph, cut this one and paste here. It's an empty. So we'll say metadata, we'll display the name, token name, and cut this one. So we'll display the name of the token, simply replicate and display other data as well. So this is the Let's call it symbol, and we'll call it symbol. Otherwise we have to display undefined, and here we can display the URL, so we'll say URI. And here we have the button which user can click and they can explore. So this is what we have. I can simply remove this one, and let's build a simple structure. So we'll take this token and URI, so user can click and it will open the entire metadata into a different tab, and sync can go, and simply call this one to open URI. This is fine. I hope you guys can understand that how we are doing all the changes, and remove this one and save it. Now we can come back here, and we have built this particular component clip close model, and user can click and they can close that. So this is the function, this is the close model, and this is the dynamic component, one for without data, one for after the data, then the user will get. Then we can come back here in our application, reload the page, and right now you can see this is how our component is looking fine. This is the by default, user will place the address and they can call the function. So let's come back here, and we have this, remove this one and close here. Now we can come back here, click on this, and here it's opening. Refresh. This is the create token, close down. This is the token metadata, and we don't have the close button, so come back here, and we already have built the particular button. So I'm going to get in the component, so this is what I have. So like I'm leaving 3 div, and here I have the button. So this is the button I have. I can simply come and place the button called close model and call this one, save it, and here we have the button. You can click and you can close. Read the page, open and close. So this one is working fine. Now we can come back here, and I want to get the token address which we have created. So I'll click on this, copy. I have the address. Now I can come back here, click on this, and let's paste the address and make a request. So here it got, and finally we got all the information about the token which we have created. You can see the name, symbol, and the address, and you can simply click and you can come and see in the new tab. So every single thing is working fine. So we have done with the most 2 important function, like create and get all details. This is the token which I have created earlier. You can see I'm getting the information of that token as well. So here is the notification is also displaying fine. So this is the create, this is the metadata, and now we have to work on the contact us form. So close this one, and we are done with this. Come back here in the home page, and now this is what we have to work on. Cut here and paste here, and we have to work on the contact view. Copy this prop, and we have to get into the view, and we have the contact. Inside that we have to work on this. So first thing, we're going to receive the FC model, then we have to change this to like receive the props. Once we have the prop, now we can do the changes in the structure and we can build the logic. Once we have the prop, now we can change this to, let's call contact view. So remove this one and let's call it contact view and FC. Now we have to receive a couple of things from React. So we're going to use this use form. We are using this forms pair, and we have also received the function like validation. So when the user will provide the information, we have to validate whether the information is given it's valid or not. Then we have to come back here and we have to receive the React icon. So we'll receive this AI outline close. Once we have the icon and all of these 2 things, now we have to build a function for sending the email. So before we do that, we can come back here and let's receive the notification, because that's the notification we have to display once the message is, the email is sent. Now looks good. Now we have to receive few things. So we have to receive the branding, and that's coming from the component. We have to also come back here and let's build the functionality for our form sending email. So we can come here, we'll take a variable called state and handle submit, and this is coming from use form, and in that we have to provide the key, which I will show you how you can generate that. In that we have to provide our ID API key. So this is ready. Now to get your key, all you have to do is to come back here. Let's get the key. Let's type forms pair, click on the very first line, and make sure to read all the thing, but I'm going to create, and make sure to create your account. So I already have my account. I'll click on the sign in, and here you will find all the project which you will create. So currently I have this 2 project which is already running, and here I have received all and send all the messages. So come back here, click on this plus icon and click on this new project or form. So you can call whatever name you can give to your project, like a Solana token, me email. Click on this create project. Here the project is created and you can do all the configuration. You can check the templates as well, but for that you have to upgrade, but we don't need that upgrade one. This is the one project we have created. Click on this plus and here you have to give the name to your form. So I'll call it email, and here you will find that this is the email where I will receive all the email which user will send. So you can add multiple, but I will go with this default one. Click on this create. Here it will create your project and here you will have all the options. So here you will have multiple options to connect this particular component, but we are using React, so this is the exact method we have to provide. You can see this is the validation, the input field. We have to provide the ID, type and email. So these properties are very important which we have to provide. So all we have to do is to get this key, and that's what we have to provide here. So simply copy your key. This is my, I'll come back to my project and I'm going to paste here. Once you're done with that, now you can easily able to send the message. So come back here in the footer and I've used the old project key, so I'm going to simply change this as well. So make sure to do all the changes, and now we can build a function which will tell us that whether we have successfully sent the email or not. So let's check that. We'll take this if state dot succeeded, then we have to simply give the notification message that you have successfully sent the email. So we'll take this notification. So this is what you have to do. This is the message. Change this. Thanks for submitting your message. We'll get back to you. Simply paste here. So we're done with that. Simply copy, and once the notification is displaying, we have to simply change the state. We have to close the model. So we'll take this to set open contact to false, and that looks fine. And we need this component as well. Copy, and that's what we can paste here. So this is the reusable model. We're going to use it and change this here as well. Now we can work on the JSX. So it's going to be a quite similar one. So I will come back to the token metadata and I have to copy this, come back here, and I have to simply paste here. So simply remove this one, get back up, and here we have to do the modification and changes in the structure because we don't need this dynamic one. So this is what I have. This looks good. We all of this messages, so simply remove this one and close this one and remove this portion, and this is fine. We are displaying our logo where we have the information, so we can change this text to something else like send email to us from more details. You can type anything you want, and here we can type something like send your message so we can provide you more details. The image is fine. We're going to have this logout, or actually we don't need this. Select this one and we can remove this one. We need to have this. Actually we don't need to have this input field. Remove this one, and we're going to have text area and input field, and here we can do the changes. So let's come back here. So this is what we have. Change this to text start, and here we can take the form. We have to remove the action and we call it on submit. Then we have to simply call this particular function, and in that we have to add the input and text area. So let's have a class called margin bottom 4 pixels. Inside that we're going to take the label. This will be email. It will have a class called text base none normal and text default 200 margin bottom 2 pixels block. We'll have a font semi bold, and here we'll have a text email. Once we have the label, now we can come back here. Let's have an input. So this will be email. It will have an ID, we'll have a name, and we'll have a class. So these three properties very important. You have to provide that. So we'll have a border default 200 block width full rounded border white, and we'll have a /10 and bg transparent. Padding y is going to be 1.5, padding is going to be 3, and text white by 80. Then we'll have a focus It will be border white 25, and we'll have a focus ring transparent. So these are the classes we have applied. Let's call the placeholder to be email. So this is the input. Now we can come back here and we can take the validation. So here we have to provide this information like prefix email, field is going to be email because that's what we are referring, and we have to display the error, so like state dot error. So this is our validation for the email. It will validate the email whether it's a genuine email or not. And let's add the text area. So we need the name, so it's going to be message. We need the ID as well, it's going to be a message. And we have to remove this. We're going to have 6, and here we have to assign, like we can copy the classes and let's apply the same classes here on the placeholder. So in the placeholder we can say message, this is fine. And what else we can add, and let's add this relative. So this is our text area, and we have to get the validation as well, paste here, and we have to change this to message capital, and here we have this small. So this will validate, and this is fine. Here we have to simply call this submit. When the user will call it, will automatically call the function. Let's add the disable. So when the user will click and it's called submitting, at that time we want to disable the button so user cannot click the second time. And let's call send message. And that's the only thing we have to do. It's working fine. Now close this one, and this is good. Now we can come back here, reload the page, and we can click on this. This is fine. This is good. Here we have, okay, we don't have this loading state. Actually, we don't need this. So come back here, go back to the component, and we have to simply remove this loading dynamic component because we are not displaying. You can display, but it's better to remove it. Let's remove this. Remove it, save it, and look fine. So reload the page, and there it is. Now you can click, and here we have that. User can provide the email, message, and it will work fine. So our close button is not in perfectly aligned, but it's working. We have to make it in the center. So let's come down here and let's see, this is the button we have. Simply cut and bring it inside this div, and now it will be in the center. That's what we have. Now we can simply give the email and we can give the message. I'll simply copy from here and paste and send. Okay, nothing happened. That's weird. Let's do the inspect element. Let's see the console. Why it's not working? This is fine. This is not an error. So reload the page and let's go to the info, click here, provide the email, give the message and send. Okay, actually our function is not triggering, so something's wrong. So come back here, and for the time being just keep it as it is. We're going to see what exactly went wrong. Let's work on the other part of our application. We'll definitely come back later and we'll see what exactly went wrong. So come back here. Now I have to work on this particular one, airdrop. So simply comment this one, come back here, go to this, let's call this on top. This is the donate, this is the airdrop we have, and this is what we have to work. So let's receive, call fc, use effect, use callback. Then we have to import the use user sol balance, and that's coming from our state variable. Then we have to import our connection. We need the wallet. Then we can import the lam port per sol, and it's coming from web3, and we have to get the transaction signature. Then we have to import the notification, it's coming from utils. Once we have the notification, then we have to receive the icon, so it's coming from react icon /ai, and we have ai outline close, that's the icon we are utilizing. Once we have that, now we have to do the internal import, and we need the branding. So branding is coming from the component. Let's provide the directory, so that looks fine. Now we have to change the name to airdrop view fc and receive the prop. So copy, paste here, and let's come back here. Let's build the wallet. So let's get that from this use wallet. Once we have the wallet, then we have to build the connection. So it's coming from, let's say, use connection, and we have the connection. Now once again we're going to take the wallet and we're going to deconstruct few things. So we'll say use wallet, and in that we have to receive the public key, because that's how we can identify that which user is connected. So we have the public key. Now we can simply come here, we can take a variable called balance, and we'll take this user sol balance, and in that we have to pass this callback function, because this is what we are following if you look at the state variable function we have. Once we have the balance, now we have to take this, we'll take this use balance so store, and that we have to simply get this particular function called get user sol balance. And now once we have these two things, we can come back here. Let's call this particular hook, because when the user will load the component, we have to simply fetch the balance and we have to display. So it's gonna be this function. So we'll take this if wallet exists, means the public key is available, then we have to simply call the function, and in that we have to pass the user public key, so it will fetch the balance, and we have to pass the connection, so that which network we are connected. Now we have to simply call this whenever there is a change in the public key and connection, and we have to call this get user balance in this function. So this will give us the balance of the user. Once we have the balance, now we can build on the actual function. So let's call this on click. Let's call it on click. It's going to be a use callback. It's going to be an async, and here we have to check for a condition. So we'll say if public key is not available, then we have to simply throw this notification error message. So we'll say error, we'll type the message, and we'll say that's something like sorry error, and we can description give the message to like wallet not connected. That's the message, and we have to return nothing. So this is the first check we are doing in the if block. Once the key is available, then we have to simply construct this signature. So we'll take this signature, and we have already this method called transaction. So this is the method we are calling transaction signature. So call this one in that signature, or we have to simply change this to and remove this one. Okay, got it. So we have the signature. Now we can build this try and catch, and we have to catch an error if anything goes wrong, or maybe if user try to call too many times to claim an error drop. So we have to catch that as well. So come back here, and we'll take the signature, and we'll say await connection dot request airdrop. In that we have to pass these two things, public key and the per sol. Then we have to display the notification, the success notification, because the user can claim successfully. So we'll say success, and this will be the you have successfully claim one airdrop, and we can remove this one, and here we can set the transaction ID to the signature. That's the, and here we can simply set, we'll take a variable called latest block, and this will have all the information. So we'll say await connection get latest block hash. Once we have all of the data, now we have to simply construct. So we'll take the connection, and that we can call this confirm transaction, because we have to check whether the transaction is confirmed or not. So in that we can pass this block hash to be latest block hash. Once we have that, we have to get this last valid block height, and we have it. Then we can take the signature, and that's how we can simply confirm the transaction. Now once the transaction is completed, we can simply call check the balance one more time. So we'll pass the public key and the connection, so it will recheck the balance and it will update that. So simply copy that one and paste here, and we can say error, and we can change the error object. So we can say error drop fail. We can remove this error, and we can display the message, so it can identify that what exactly went wrong, and we can simply pass the signature. The reason why I have attached this particular block, because user can claim one airdrop in only 24 hours. That's why we have built this condition, so it can automatically give you that what exactly went wrong. And here we want to call this function like public key connection and get user balance. So whenever there is a change in the state, we have to simply call it. Good. And that's the only thing we have to do in this particular function. I hope you guys have understood that what exactly we have done. We are using the methods, then we are simply checking for a condition, fetching the balance, and then we are building the signature and passing all this information to confirm the transaction, and this will trigger whenever there is a change in the state. Now we can come back here, and we already worked on the component, so we come back to the metadata and we need this one. Copy, and that's what we can simply call here, because this is the closed component we have. Now we can come back here and we need the JSX as well, so we need this portion. So come back here and we can go back to the contact, and here we can simply get this one. So copy, and that's what I can simply call it here. And let's come on top, and here we have, let's convert this to export module, and here we have to remove this one, and here I can paste the cop code, and we all have to do a little bit changes. So this is fine, like we have to remove this form because we don't need that, but the rest would be fine. So like the image is there, so here we have the logo, then we have this text, and let's come here, we'll take a dynamic block because we have to display the balance. We'll say wallet exist, then we have to simply take a p, and it will display the balance of the user. So we'll say sol balance, and the balance is available in the balance, and we have to simply display the balance. Otherwise we have to display this 0, and we have to call this to local string, so it will display the user balance. Okay, now we can simply remove this one, and we'll say your platform. You can display any message, but this is what I want to go with. And here we have the entire form component, and do I need anything from here? So simply close this one and remove this form component. We still need this button, and all we have to do is, like, this section looks good to me, and here we have the submitting state, and what I'm going to do is, like, we have to remove this. So the class is going to be fine. Let's call this to air drop 1, and we have to remove this and remove this as well. We'll have our on click, and we'll say click function, and here we have to simply disable the button when there is no public key available, and that looks good. And here we have this margin bottom text. So what I can do, this is fine, cut this one, remove this one, come back here, we'll take a div. It will have a class called flex item start justifies center. Inside that, we'll take an image, and we'll display asset slash image slash a logout.svg, and that's the image we'll display, and it will have a class like close to height 40, and save it. And that's the only thing we have to do here. Like, everything looks pretty good. Now we can come back here, reload the page, and here we have, click on this, and you can see we can easily able to fetch the balance of the user. We have the icon, we have the button, and now user can claim one airdrop. So I can see here I have to change the function name. So let's come back here, copy, and that's what we have to replace here in the close model. Paste here, save it, refresh, no problem, click here, it will open. We have the balance, and now you can simply claim, click airdrop, and here the transaction went through. Click here, you can able to take you here on the devnet, you can see the transaction completed. You can able to find all the information, the confirmation, and the amount you have received. So we have received 1 sol, transfer amount is 1 sol. That's all you will find. And if you come back here, you will see the balance is also get updated. Click on this airdrop, it's 9, so it's working fine. Let's do the console logout if anything goes wrong, so we can see that. So let's construct the message. So we'll say airdrop failed, and we'll say airdrop message, and we can type the signature so we can see what exactly went wrong. So save it, and looks fine. If I reload the page, if I click here, right now I have the balance. If I click close this one, you can see the transaction is failed because we have claimed too many times. So I can call this after few hours. If I come back, you can see I can see the error log in my terminal, in my console. Looks fine. So this airdrop is working fine. We have seen everything looks pretty good. You can click, and you can is able to call and see the transaction is failed. So this error will take a little bit time to get, because the transaction will make, then it will get the error. You can close and look fine. Now we have to work on the send transaction function. So we are done with this. Close this one, close this one, and now this is the final component. It's left. Close, close, and that's what we have to work. So copy this prop. Now come back to the donate, and let's quickly work on this. So receive the prop. Now we have to receive the FC model, and here we have to simply cut, paste, and remove this one, and we can simply change the niche to donate view. Donate view. So that's what we have here. So let's work on the functionality and let's do all the imports. So we need to get this use effect, use state, and use callback. Then we can come back here in the airdrop, and we need to get this, copy and paste here. And here we need to get this use state. Let's do the changes. So this is what we need, and this is what we have. Let's see, we need all of this. Here we have to receive few things. So we can receive the public key, because we can know where we have to do the transaction, and we have to get the transaction. Then we have to system program. That's what we got it. Now we can come back here. Let's do the import, internal import. We need the branding, or we can get the input field, input view, and it's coming from the same directory. Then we have to get the branding. It's coming from the components. So we got the internal import. Now we have to work on the functionality. So let's take a wallet that's coming from use wallet. Then we have to build the connection, and that's coming from use connection. Once we have the connection, now we have to get the public key, and this will come from the wallet as well. So get the public key wallet, and we'll have the public key. We'll have the send transaction. Then we have to take a state variable called amount. So by default it will be 0. User can set the amount which he wants to donate. Now we can come back here, copy this portion and paste here, because we have to fetch the balance of the user, and this is going to be the same. We don't do any changes. Now we have to work on the functionality which allow user to transfer the fund to the address. We're going to receive the fund because we are the creator, and you can provide any address where you want to receive the fund from the users. So this looks good. Now I can come back here. Let's take a variable cons, and let's call it on click. It will be use callback, async, and here first thing we have to check, we'll say if. So this is the check we have to do, copy and paste here, whether the user is connected and has the wallet or not. Once we're done with the check and looks good, now we can come back here. Let's build the signature. So let's call this creator address, where you want to receive the fund. So here I'm going to provide my address. So we'll call this new public key, and here you have to provide the address where you want to receive the fund. So I'm going to provide my address. So when the user will transfer the fund, it's going to come to my address. So to get your address, it's pretty easy. Come back to your Phantom wallet, open it up, log into your Phantom wallet. And once you log in, like right now you can see, I can click on this and I'm going to get this devnet, copy. And that's what I can simply provide that address. So all the fund you will transfer, that's going to be received here. So you have to provide your, I'm providing my. I'll take this try and catch, and I have to catch an error if anything goes wrong. Simply copy and paste here. We'll call it any, and here we can simply call change this message. So this will be called transaction failed. Here we have the description. So remove this one, and we have to go with a meaningful error which we will receive, and we have to assign the transaction signature. So this is the signature we have to build. So we get the creator address. Now I can come back here. I have to get this one and paste here. Then I have to get this, and I'm doing the transfer of the fund. So simply paste here, simply cut this one and paste here. And here I have to do the changes in the method. So like this time I have to remove this entire, and I can say, let's call this to const transaction new transaction function, and we'll call this add method. And in that we have to provide the information like system program to transfer, and provide all this buffer and all. So we'll say from key, public key, then we have the pub2 from where, and to where we want to receive, and we have to provide this perso. So the user who will transfer, the place where we want to receive the fund, and the actual fund. So this is what we are providing in the transaction in the method, and we have to simply convert it into a number, and we have to pass down the amount we want to transfer. Got it? So this is the font we want to transfer. Now we can come back here. Let's take the signature and we can say await send transaction. In that we can simply pass the transaction, and we have to pass the connection so it can transfer the font. And we can simply update the signature here. Unsuccessful. We can change the message. So you have successfully, let's call this transfer fund, and we can pass down the amount which user have transferred. Let's convert it to a template literal, and that's the only thing you have to do here in the function. Pretty good. And we can come here, let's return nothing from here, and we have to make the changes like wherever there is a change in public key, amount, and send transaction, and the connection. So this is the entire function we have for sending the font to the address. So hope so far things are pretty clear to all of you guys, and you guys have understood that what logic we have implemented. So this is exactly the same thing we are doing. So this is the signature system program, and we are transferring the font, and if anything goes wrong, that's what we are simply triggering. So come back here, we need to get this one close component model, and that's what we have to paste. And now we have to work on the JSX. So simply copy this one and replace here. This looks good. So we are done with that. Now we can come back here and we can take this entire JSX, copy, and that's what we have to paste here. And here we have to do the changes. So we can come back here, and this looks fine. We're going to have the branding where we have to get the balance. We have to display the balance of the user. We can take this, we have the image. We can simply do one thing. We can, like, this is one I have. Come back here, below the image, we'll take a div. It will have a class called text start. Inside that, we're going to take this input view, and we have to send the props because we need to get the amounts. We'll have this amount, we'll have the placeholder, we'll say amount, and we have this click handle function. In that we have to call this function. So we'll say e, and we have to simply update that, set amount e.target.value. In that way we can easily able to update the amount in our state variable, and that can be passed down to our function. So that's the input field we have. Looks good, and this will be the same. And here we have to change this to donate, and that's the only thing we have to do. If I come back to the page, if I go to the transaction, you can see the balance is displaying fine. This is the text. You can simply replace that and change that. Here we have the image. I can come back here, and instead of this donate, I can say donate like. You can type any message. Once we have that, you can close it, you can open it. So this looks good. This is also working. Paste the address, and if you have the information, this is the, you can see message is also displaying. This is the sending email, airdrop, and here right now I cannot do the transfer because I don't have the address, but it's working fine. All you have to do is to pass them the amount, and it will transfer the fund. And here you can attach all the data additional which I have created. So looks fine. Got it? I hope you guys can see how everything is coming together. And now we can test this out, all the functionality we have built. But before we do that, let's work on our component. So if I go back to the test network, you can see the message is displaying that we are not connected. So we have to connect with the test network. And even you can claim an airdrop in the test network as well. Click here. Right now I have 5. If I claim, I'll get the message. And here the transaction will do. Click here. It will take you to the test net. And you can see the transfer you have done, 1 SOL. And this balance will reflect here. So if you click, it's 6 now. So it's working on the test net. You can easily do the transfer and close this one. And this is the email we have. So if I do the mainnet, it will not work. Let me connect my wallet. And if I try to make a call and get some airdrop on the mainnet, it will not work because SOL is not free on the mainnet. I'll get an error. Here you can see the transaction failed. So the message is also displaying fine. So we can test on the devnet all that. Select, reload the page, and fine. Now we have to work on this contact. I have to check what exactly went wrong, why we are not able to send the message. So copy and paste and send. So nothing is happening. So we have to see what exactly went wrong into this component. So reload the page, and we can come back in the VS, close this one, and we have to get into the contact. So like this is the one which we have to check. Come back here in the contact and let's have a look at what exactly happening. This is fine, we don't need to do anything, and I found a problem. So you can see this is the form we have, and here we have to simply wrap this button as well in the form component. So here we have to paste. Once you do that, then it will trigger our form. So make sure to do this change, and this is fine, this is fine, everything is good. Now you can send the email successfully. So if you click here in the contact, give the email, copy the text, paste here, and send e-message, and the message is sent. The message is sent. I have received the message. I can see the notification because I closed the component too early. But if I come back here, you can see if I go here in the, so when I was testing, I made a changes in the key, but you can see the message I have received here. This is the key I have used. But right now we don't have anything in here, but that will work fine. Let me show you. Simply copy this for this particular one. Right now we don't have here. Now we can come back here and I want to change this one. Now I will receive in that particular section. So make sure to do these changes and bring it here. Save it. Now come back and let's do the transaction. So go to the page, click on this contact us, give the email, give the copy text and paste here, send, and here the message is sent. You can see the notification is displayed and I got an email in my email IDs, and you can also find the detail here. Reload the page and there is the details, email we have sent just now. You can also check in your email. Here you can see I also receive an email. It's working fine. So it's working fine. You can see the email is working absolutely fine. So we're done with this entire project. I hope you guys can understand that how things are coming together. Let's give a quick one more check. So we can click tools, feature, price is not going, FAQ, we have all of this. Now let's quick disconnect application. We have to connect, check all of these options. Phantom is there, so I can connect. Now I can simply create an account on my DevNet. So I can simply click, I can pick an image. So this time I will go to this particular dude. It will upload the image. I'll copy the text, paste here. So paste here. I can give the name. I'll call it testing. Dawn, we'll say dawn. Symbol is going to be 9. Amount is going to be close to 1 million. And click here, 100 million. And it's going to create our token. Here we have the pop-up model, 100 million token we are creating, confirm, and the transaction went through. Here we have all the details. You can simply click and you can verify the transaction on the Solana DevNet. And there it is. You can see the image, icon, and name. That's all is displaying. Here we have all of this information in the metadata. That's all reflecting here. Pretty good. So come back here in the application. You can copy the address and paste here. This is the address. And one more thing, like this particular token is automatically added in your Phantom wallet. So if you click here, you can see this is the token. So this is the one we have called testing dawn. It's reflecting here. Fine. Copy the address, close this one. Let's look for the metadata function, paste here. And this is also looking fine. We have all this information about this token. Good. You can click and you can check the URI, the entire information. Close this one. Now this email, let's send the email. Let's copy the text, paste here, send, and the email is sent successfully. And here we have the notification. Pretty beautiful. Look fine. Now we can get an airdrop. Reload the page right now. Let's get an airdrop. If I click on this airdrop, the transaction will fail because I have already made the claim. Let's click on this airdrop, and here the transaction failed because you have to wait for 24 hours to claim another airdrop. So the transaction failed. Reload the page. Now let's do the send transaction. So you can pass the amount and you can transfer the fund. So everything is working fine on the DevNet. It will also work fine in the mainnet. So let's switch back to the mainnet. And I'm not going to create an account token on the mainnet because I don't have real fund. Or if I come back to the airdrop, I cannot claim an airdrop. Right now I have 0 fund. If I claim, I'll get an error because let me do it. And here I got an error because Sol is not free. So it's working fine. You can also transfer the fund, you can send an email, you can get the information about the token. So like if I come back to the, like, go to this mainnet, and if I find a token which has all the information, so I can fetch the metadata. So I can see this is the token I have. I can click on this, and here I have the token, copy, and I have to get the address of this token, copy, and that's what I can paste here and make a request. And here I have all the details about this token, like symbol, JSON, and the token URI. That's all you will find here. Got it? Close this one, close this one. So we can easily able to fetch all the information. We can also create token on the mainnet, but I don't have real funds, so I'm not going to do that. It's unnecessary. It's same for the testnet. You can simply connect your wallet, and right now we can claim an airdrop on the testnet. And if you want to create a token on the testnet, it's not going to happen because the RPC endpoint we are using in the project is no longer valid right now. If you provide the valid endpoint for creating, it will work fine, but it will only work for getting the airdrop. So let me show you what I mean by that. If you upload, let me get the description. Here we have the image. Let's call the description, paste here. If I make the name, I can call this to testing. Now we'll call this test 9. I can give something like 4,000. If I click on this create, the transaction will fail. Most probably the transaction will fail because I don't have real fund. I do have fund, but the RPC we are using is not the active one right now, and most of the provider which are not providing the test RPC endpoint, but it will work fine on the mainnet or on the devnet, and that is good enough. If you reload the page, it will not work. But if you can claim, you can easily transfer the fund, you can send the email which we have already seen. And if I come back here in the test, if I go to the test, and if I try to find a token which has its information, so I can simply click here, and I can simply copy, and I can provide here and make a request on the test network, and just wait. As I told you that the RPC endpoint we are using, so this token has the information about this particular token on the testnet, but the RPC endpoint we are using is no longer valid. So we have to get the valid RPC endpoint, which I don't have, and most of the providers are not giving me, so I'm not going to. But it's working fine. Almost it's working fine in mainnet and devnet, and that is good enough for testing. You can do all the testing on the devnet, and you can do that in all mainnet as well. So this looks good. Close this one, and we have done with this entire project. So here you can see that this is the devnet which is working fine, and this is the testnet. So testnet is working fine when it's come to claiming an airdrop, but when it's come to doing the transaction, getting the information, it's not working on that. Devnet is working fine, and here we have used the custom Solana RPC endpoint. So that looks good. So close this one. Fine with all the project, and I hope you guys can see that what we have built after so many hours. So it looks absolutely wonderful. We can easily able to check the responsiveness of this application. This is fine. You can see drop down, you can change to different screen sizes, you can simply open, close, and that's what we have. Pretty beautiful. You can simply drop down, open, close, open, close. Looks pretty good. Again, I would encourage you that if you really want to master blockchain, then make sure to check this particular course, and that you will master Solidity and all the technology which you have to know to become a high paying blockchain developer. So come and check this out. Come back to the source code section. Here you will find all the project we have built on our channel. That's all you will find. So if you haven't built any one of the project, make sure to come and build. That will teach you that what you have to know and how you can build a dApp. If you want to start with this project, type Solana, and you can simply download the starter file. Here you can see, click and download the starter file, and here I have attached the video. So once you will download the final source code, you can simply follow this video. In that I have explained everything, that how you can do the setups. So watch this video and run in your system. So this project is really very must, and I would encourage you to check this one, that what exactly you're going to build. So hope this entire thing makes sense to all of you guys finally. So finally we are done with this entire project. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have any question, any doubt, you guys can simply ask me in this email, where I will try to help you and provide you all the information if you guys stuck. And make sure to follow the complete project. That will teach you a lot of things. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.